Welcome back to Arise Entertainment 360. I'm Lola Ogunaike.
And I'm Shannon Lanier. Now, it's no secret that New York City has some of the best restaurants in the world, but knowing which ones to eat at may be a little bit more ambiguous.
So here with some spots that are hot or not is Village Voice food critic Robert Sietsema. Thanks for joining us for all, and ooh, wow.
Surprise.
Oh, you came with a look too.
Thanks for having me on.
So Robert, the most obvious question is, what's up with the mask?
I wear a mask when I'm on TV appearances because I don't want anyone to recognize me. I'm the world's last anonymous critic. In other words, when I go into a restaurant, they don't know that I'm a critic. So I get to eat just like a regular person. And well, y'all are celebrities, so you're used to getting special treatment. But I don't want special treatment. I want to just be fed the same food everybody else gets.
And for the viewing audience, we've seen what you look like backstage in the green room, and you're actually very handsome. So don't let the devil horns or the weird hair fool
Flattery
you.
will get you nowhere.
Oh, God. But why the devil?
Well, actually, my daughter, who used to live in my house before she moved to California, had a big box of masks and whatnot that she used, you know, on Halloween. And one day I had to do a TV appearance. I didn't want people to recognize me, so I just pulled this one out because I found you get such an advantage if you look like the devil when you're on TV. Oh. You know.
If it works, go for it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we gotta know. Your job seems like my dream job, but how cool is your job really, and how did you get into being a food critic?
I was a rock musician for 14 years, and one of the things that rock musicians need to do between when they do a sound check early in the evening or late in the afternoon, and when they come on in a club, which can be midnight or later, is they need to spend some time having fun and to relax. And so I started getting my friends to go with me to restaurants all over the 5 boroughs and in other states as well. And I did a fanzine. Usually fanzines were about music. My fanzine was about food. And I kind of like tried to cover restaurants that especially were cheap and that no one else knew about. And a lot of those were ethnic restaurants. That was the first wave of immigrants that were just coming in the country. And I just had such a good time eating in all of these restaurants from all over the world. So.
Now, had you been a foodie growing up?
My father was a food chemist, but I really wasn't much of a foodie. As a Midwesterner, I mean, we basically just ate mashed potatoes and meatloaf every night. You know,
what exactly is a food chemist?
A food chemist is somebody who understands the chemistry of food and knows how things interact and especially formulates what foods taste like. I mean, if you look at your typical packaged mix today, you'll see that there's like 100 weird sounding ingredients on it. And the food chemist would be the person that decides which of those belongs and which ones don't.
Wow. See, I try to be a food chemist, but I just don't know which ones don't belong. I just put everything in there.
Well, Robert, these days it seems like almost anyone can be a food critic or is trying to be a food critic, especially with the proliferation of social media. What do you make of all these amateur food critics out there, and what differentiates them from you, who's obviously a seasoned professional?
Not a heck of a lot. I love the amateur critics. Amateur critics, though, you never know where they're coming from. The virtue of having a critic that you read week in and week out is that she or he will have a regular point of view that you can trust. I mean, people know that I love chili peppers and I love tons of garlic, and if the reader doesn't like those things, the reader will then realize when I'm talking about chili peppers and garlic that they should avoid those dishes. So, you get to know a critic. A critic is like a friend of yours who gives you good advice. Whereas if you go into Yelp or something like that, I mean, you can read all of these criticisms and you never know if it's just because the person's crazy or because, they really know what they're talking about.
And sometimes you don't know if they're also being paid by some of these restaurants.
That's right, exactly right. Yes, I never accept free food under any circumstances, and I always, pay for my meals in cash.
Now, how many times do you have to visit a restaurant before you can make an assessment, a definitive assessment of the food at that restaurant?
That's a great question.
Thank you.
I think that 3 is fair.
Okay.
Because, and also the first time you go to a restaurant, you eat the things that you really want to eat. The next time, the things that you didn't necessarily want to eat. And the third time, the things that you definitely didn't want to eat. So, your view changes. And so you can put those all together at the end and write what's fair, to the restaurant, which is really important.
So with all the meals you taste, is there a favorite meal that you always like?
A favorite meal I always like.
Or a type of food that you normally write about. People are more familiar, like Chinese food, that say, oh,
one of my favorite kinds of food, which we have here in New York, is West African food. I've been to West Africa.
Are you just saying that because I'm from West Africa and because I paid you to say that?
No. Yes, you did. And I'll be accepting my check afterwards. No, it's one of the least known foods, types of food in the United States, and yet one of the most interesting ones. There's a lot of compatibility between, say, eating a mash with a sauce and like eating spaghetti and meatballs or something. I mean, it's the same kind of mindset.
All right. Well, you told us about your favorite food, but what about some of your favorite restaurants right here in New York?
That's very difficult to say because I have hundreds of them, but I could mention Hasaki in the East Village is an absolutely fantastic sushi bar. Where the sushi's a little bit cheaper than if you go to Masa and pay $500. Yes. You can get the greatest sushi meal in the world there for $30 or $40.
And that's Hasaki in the East Village.
Hasaki, H-A-S-A-K-I.
And you mentioned West African food, so is there a West African restaurant that I should check out?
There's a lot of them. What kind of West African food? We've got Nigerian.
And because I'm Nigerian.
Naturally. That's good. Well, you know about Buka. B-U-K-A, which is on Fulton Street in Clinton Hill.
Okay.
And you can get your rubber tree snails and all of the things there that that you might not have thought were available. And they're really into the white yams, and you can get kenki and all sorts of things. You can get kinky with kenke.
Kinky with kenke.
All right.
Now I have to ask you this: how do you keep the weight off when you're constantly eating? Because I ate so much last night, and I'm not eating anything today as a result. You do this for a living.
Well, thank you so much for coming to the food festival too, because that was so nice of you to come. The way that I keep the food off is that you're not going to believe this, but if you're surrounded by just amazing, great food all the time, you never eat like there's no tomorrow. And also, I ride my bike everywhere I go, and I swim 2 or 3 times a week. So I'm a very nervous person, so I kind of tend to sweat it off.
So you fidget a lot. I heard that burns a lot of calories.
It does,
fidgeting.
yeah. Well, they say that you can burn like 80 calories an hour if you just kind of twitch. And of course, people will kind of like give you a wide berth when they walk past you. But
now, what do you do if you just have an absolutely horrific meal? I mean, the benefits is that you're exposed to a lot of great foods, but the drawback is you probably taste some pretty, spit in your napkin type things.
Well, I definitely have, although I try to only eat good food, but sometimes unavoidably. You get a bad bite, you get something that's horrible. And
well, just make sure you don't get that horrible food all the time. That's why we keep you around, so we know where not to go to get horrible food. So thank you so much for joining us today.
And thank you for having me on.
All right, we'll be following you and making sure we eat the right food. All right, still to come, Fashion Times 2. We're joined by the twins behind the Matano clothing line. You don't want to miss it. Arise Entertainment 360.